Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Noah from 6Flow Automations. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the best practices when creating a universal prompt for your single prompt voice agent within Retell AI. This is going to be a super quick video where I show you a real life example of a voice agent I just made for one of our clients and is now currently active. And just a quick heads up, I've actually made a Claude project that is specifically designed to build universal prompts for single prompt voice agents within Retell AI when using ChatGPT 4.1 as the LLM. This allows Claude to act as your voice agent engineering assistant, allowing you to optimize your voice agent prompts much better and much faster. If you guys want access to the resources needed to build this Claude project, all of it is held in our school community, which you can find the link in the description below. And as always, if you guys find this content useful or want to support the channel, hit that like button, drop a sub, and let's jump right into it. All right, so like I said, the example for this video is going to be a currently active agent for one of our clients. I've actually recently just completed this build a few days ago, so it is very fresh. Now, this is an inbound agent for an MMA gym that's main purpose is to answer questions about the gym and transfer calls when needed. So this does use dynamic call transfer routing, and if you guys want to learn more about that, I'll link one of the videos up above where I break it down in full. So jumping right into this, let's first discuss the welcome message. So this is an inbound agent, meaning that we want the AI to speak first. If I just move my picture over a little bit, you'll see here I have the welcome message set to AI speaks first, and I've set it also to a custom message to make sure that the agent is consistent every time it is answering a call. I always suggest using a static sentence as the opening message for inbound agents, just to ensure that the agent is saying the exact same thing and greeting the user in the exact same way every single time. So you can see here the example I went for is, "Hi there, thanks for calling company." I say company because I don't want to give the client's information away, by the way. Just a quick heads up, this call may be recorded for quality purposes. How can I help you today? The reason I specify that this call may be recorded is because the client is currently using our analytics platform, which shows them call recordings. So we do need to let the user know that the call may be recorded. So this is a very generic welcome message. Most of your agents will have something similar to this, just asking, how can I help you today? And probably stating that the call may be recorded if you are using post-call analysis. All right, so now let's actually jump into the universal prompt itself. So you can see here, we do use Markdown format when typing the universal prompt because it is the best method for the agent to interpret the information correctly. Now, the only functions you'll need to know about Markdown really are that hashtags mean a header and the asterisk means bold. So if you have two hashtags, that's going to be a secondary header. If you have one hashtag, that's going to be a primary header. If you have three hashtags, that's going to be a tertiary header, I guess. And then if you have no hashtags, that's just going to be plain text. Now, when you want to bold specific text, the way to do that is adding two asterisks at the end of the part that you want to bold, as well as the beginning, so you can see an example right here. That is all you'll really need to know about formatting the universal prompt, but you probably don't actually need to worry about this because I'm sure by now you know you should be designing this universal prompt with the help of Claude or ChatGPT, so you can always have them convert it into the proper format once you're done filling in all the information. Now, looking at the role itself, you can see I gave the agent a name. I said, "You are Holly, a friendly virtual assistant for company and location. Answer questions about classes, memberships, programs using the knowledge base, only transfer calls when absolutely necessary." So the role pretty much breaks down exactly what the agent is doing. So like I said at the beginning of this video, this agent is designed to answer questions about the gym and transfer calls when necessary. So what I just told you is exactly what I inputted into the role. If this agent also needed capabilities to book meetings, that would go in the role as well. Now, the next section is personality and tone. So this is pretty much the same every agent I designed. You want it warm, encouraging, beginner friendly, conversational, not robotic, confident, but never pushy. So those are just three quick points you can add to your agent to give it a little bit of a personality and make sure that when it's talking to users on the other side of the phone call, it's never being pushy and it's not really sounding robotic. Now, you can see here I've also added a quick example. Examples are actually a really good call to add in your universal prompt because the agent will refer to that example a lot of the time when it's trying to figure out the best way to respond to the user. You do want to, however, make sure that you're not providing too many examples where you're going to confuse the agent or increase the latency for no reason. And you definitely want to make sure that you label this as an example so that the agent doesn't assume that it needs to say that specifically. So now here's where we jump into the juicy part of the universal prompt, which is going to be the core rules. This is where you want to list out every single rule that the agent should follow. The core rules are honestly going to be pretty specific to the agent you're designing yourself. So these were all updated as I was testing the agent. For example, I noticed that the agent kept on asking 2 to 3 questions per response, which is a little bit annoying on the user's end. So I told it to specifically ask one question at a time. Next, I told it to use short, natural sentences responses. The reason I added that was because the agent's responses were straight up just too long. An example when I was testing is I asked about a class schedule timing, and not only did it tell me when the time was, it told me who was teaching it, gave me a background on the professor that was teaching that class, and much more information that was just straight up not needed. So I made sure that it's using short responses. Another great one to add is varying responses. You don't want it to say awesome before it starts talking every single time. You want to make sure that it's switching it up a little bit, and you definitely want to make sure it's matching the caller's pace. Now, again, the communication, that's all going to be iterated through as you're testing your agent. And if you haven't checked out the video where I discuss the best practices for testing your voice agent, you should probably check that out, which I'll link up above. All right, so like I said, the core rules are going to be very specific towards your agent. So I don't want to take you through all of these because I'm sure a lot of you are not building a voice agent for an MMA gym, but I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what should go under the core rules. If I go more on, I have a section that says when to ask follow-up questions. The reason I added that is because it was asking follow-up questions every single response it was giving, which was a little bit annoying in my opinion, because you don't always want to be asking a question every single time. You want the conversational to flow a little bit nicer, but that is not to mean that you should never ask a follow-up question. So I simply outline when and when not it should ask a follow-up question. Then I have technical voice. So this is not really necessary if your global settings are very good, but I did decide to keep it in there because the prompt is relatively short. So it's just a fallback to ensure that the agent is always speaking in human-like form. And then we have key messages. So this is the type of stuff that I want the agent to focus on when having a conversation, because it's sort of like lead magnets for the client, right? So a free trial is a good lead magnet. Letting the user know that their classes are beginner friendly is a great lead magnet, and stuff like that. And then below that is where I get into the call transfer. So this is just outlining when and when not the agent should transfer the call. And because we're using dynamic transferring, I also mentioned when to transfer to this person versus this person, and so on. And then I have a section for call flow. So this is just the main three things, which is going to be the greeting, answer questions, and closing. And you can see the greeting is pretty much the same as my welcome message. The answer questions is just letting the agent know to use the knowledge base and answer the questions directly. And then the closing is when the caller says goodbye or that's it, end the call cleanly. Next is special cases. So this is just rare things that you notice in your testing phase that don't happen often, but they do occur once in a while. So for example, if I were to ask the agent if it's AI, I want it to respond like this. If it's unsure about anything, check the knowledge base again. If still no answer, transfer to this person. And then after that section, I have a few examples of good and bad methods when answering questions. So like I said earlier, examples are always a good idea to add to your universal prompt. Just make sure that you're not adding too much where it's affecting the latency and things like that. And then the very final section is going to be critical reminders. So this is the type of stuff that I want to reiterate to ensure that the agent is following these rules specifically. And these are the type of points that when I get to the final stages of my testing, I continuously add more and more bullet points as I notice very little stuff that it should just not be doing. So you may be wondering why my universal prompt is so short and like where the knowledge is coming from. Like, how is this agent actually performing well? And the reason is because it's actually using a knowledge base that has about 30 pages of information about the business itself, about the membership pricing, the schedules, and much more information. And all I'm doing in the universal prompt is letting the agent know when it needs to refer to the knowledge base to get that information. You could, however, simply type all that information into the universal prompt, but the issue with that is the longer your universal prompt is, the more your agent's going to start acting up, and it's just not the best method to have your agent retrieve information about the business. This is a reason that Retell has a built-in knowledge base function where you can add loads of documents and information as an external connection to the agent that it just needs to refer to once it needs to answer a specific question. And that is pretty much it, guys. I hope you now have a strong foundation on the proper method for formatting universal prompts within single prompt agents. Now, I do want to point out again that this prompt was heavily designed with the help of the Claude project that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. It is an extremely useful tool if you know how to use it. And again, if you want it, it is in our school community, so just hit that link in the description. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, hit that like button, drop a sub, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.